All right, welcome back to College Football Addiction. We've got Tom Hannifan. We do a show with Tom, the Power Two, and Tom's off this week. He's on PTO, and we're still calling him in because Penn State decided to shock the college football world and fire James Franklin. Tom, I appreciate you taking a couple of minutes to join us via phone, but how shocked were you when this news came out?
First of all, I appreciate the benefits package that football addiction provides. It's very kind to offer PTO. So to give you just some context on my day this past Sunday, I was working my full-time job for TNA Wrestling. It was literally our biggest event of the year, Bound for Glory. Middle of the afternoon, my phone explodes with family and friends and colleagues. James Franklin has been fired as the head coach of Penn State football. And the irony was the night before Saturday night, Penn State loses to Northwestern, third straight loss. It was the first time in my time covering the team on my own podcast, State of State, a Penn State football show with Justin King, that I called for James Franklin to be fired because I believed that the three consecutive losses, not just because you lost three games in a row, but because what it was signaling was inexcusable and that there was really only one way forward. I just didn't think it would ever happen
Yeah.
because there were 56 million reasons why it wouldn't happen. And Penn State has been a team that's been playing Moneyball for many years and trying to play catch up financially in the NIL game, transfer portal, all these sorts of things. So the thought of Penn State eating a $56 million contract, I just didn't believe it would happen. Now, there's the real world where I thought they would not do that. And then there was the honest world where I thought they needed to do that. And then seeing that news break Sunday, it was a mixture of reactions, TJ. And there were people who had been calling for James Franklin's head for years. And there were other people who thought this was an insane decision. And I think we're still sifting through the rubble of this seismic shift in the landscape of not just Penn State football, but college football. This is being felt everywhere.
Is it I mean you called for it, so it was time. Are there some mixed emotions though? Like is there a thought of like are we certainly going to do better? I mean, again, I've asked six questions at once, but and does it also feel a little bit like Rick did Georgia? Like, hey, this is a good coach, but like we may do better, we may not, but we just know that this is not going to win a national championship type thing.
Yeah. So to your first point, this feels very bittersweet. There's been no indication whatsoever that James Franklin is a bad human being, a bad man, a bad coach, any of those sorts of things. In 12 years, have you ever heard of anything bordering on illegal with James Franklin? Maybe the one instance of Micah Parsons years ago in the locker room situation, whatever that was. But this has been an exemplary program under his tenure. And this was a head coach who inherited a program that was on death's door after the Sandusky scandal sanctions. So for Penn State to have that stability for 12 years, I don't think that is ever going to be duplicated. And this is a program that you went from an extremely long tenure with Joe Paterno, the turnover from Tom Bradley to Bill O'Brien, and then 12 years of longevity with James Franklin. That's kind of what this fan base is used to. But this is bittersweet. This is not a bad coach. This is not a bad human being. I feel for him and I feel for his family that's living in State College. And listen, it's toxic being in State College right now. The expectations were for this team to contend for the national championship. The loss to Oregon really ripped open a wound that I don't think most people within the Lash building expected to be that bad. I think people thought, hey, we had a hard fought game. We went to double overtime with a top 10 team and we lost at home in a whiteout, all those sorts of things. But the eruption was something that I don't know if the Penn State football program was prepared for. That being said, I think you'd be foolish to just sit there and say, oh, yeah, Penn State will absolutely find someone better than a guy who won 104 games for you and just took you to the semifinal of the college football playoff last year. They're going to be hard pressed to find someone better than James Franklin. But still, I think you'd reach James Franklin's ceiling. And I think there's some things that Penn State football and the Penn State community are going to have to get comfortable with. The traditional old world concept of success with honor which typically means not paying people a lot of money and looking for choir boys, is going to have to go away. You're going to have to be more aggressive in the way that you pursue things. And if anything that this move should tell us and tell you and tell the world, TJ, is that the athletic director, Pat Kraft, is deathly serious about Penn State pursuing a national championship to every end when it comes to football. Otherwise, he wouldn't have eaten $56 million dollars.
I'll get right back to the video, but first I do want to tell you about our friends over at Sleeper. Do not delay. We're like halfway through the month. The offer only goes through October, but if you've been waiting to deposit, if you've been waiting to put money into the app, you don't even have to do that now. You get a free $20 play by putting our code in, CFA, for college football addiction, on the Sleeper app. The link in the description literally will auto-populate that for you. You don't have to spend money. You don't have to deposit if you're cheap or you just don't trust whatever. Go and make a free play right now. You get a free $20 on the Sleeper app. You go in, you pick more or less on at least 2 players, games that you like. They've got free picks all the time. I saw that last night Jared Goff had a more or less of 0.5. Go and deposit on the Sleeper app right now. If you also want a $100 match up to $100, you can get that. But again, you don't have to. You just get a free $20 play. Go and play. We'll play that live on the Power 2 on Wednesday. Give you some of our favorite picks from the weekend. Let you know how we did last week so you can trust or fade what we're doing. Appreciate Sleeper for their support. Go check them out. Have you heard anything, or do you have any thoughts on why the move was made now? Was it a locker room issue? Is it a donor issue? Because let's be fair, they're probably going to hire somebody who is coaching right now, and that's not going to happen before late November at the earliest, likely early December, based on where teams or the guy is in the playoff hunt and all those things. Do you have an opinion on why it happened now as opposed to just happening, let him coach out the year or coach out more of the year?
I think the sooner these firings can occur in this world of college football, the better for your program. I think that's across the board. Doesn't matter how big or small you are, because you have to consider a lot of factors. The transfer portal opens up for 30 days. So now Penn State is going to have to scramble in regard to roster retention. But as I spoke with Justin King earlier on today, and I want to touch on Justin here in a moment, Justin was saying, player retention is important. But at the same time, he was like, this is attempting to stop the bleeding when it comes to recruiting, because you had recruits like Khalil Taylor and you had recruits like Kamon Spell, arguably the number 1 recruit in the class of 2027, decommitting from Penn State over the last few weeks. So you could kind of see the future of Penn State starting to crumble and the lack of faith with what James Franklin and company were doing. The irony in all this is that my own broadcast colleague, his stepfather, is now the interim head football coach for Penn State football. It's incredible. Terry Smith is one of the most respected position coaches in the country. Jim Knowles has said it himself, is that he doesn't believe there's any finer position coach in college football right now. He has been the associate head coach for quite some time. So I think Penn State is going to have stability, at least for the short term. I don't know if Terry Smith will be the answer long term. My gut would say no, not that he's a bad coach, but it would make sense that they want to start fresh. And there's a lot of people, TJ, as you all know, that are about to potentially lose their jobs. And that's from interns to graduate assistants to coordinators to position coaches, like everybody involved with this football program. Their whole world just got turned upside down. In terms of what sparked this, I think it's kind of what I was saying before. I think people within the Penn State organization, within the administration, had seen the ceiling for quite some time with James Franklin, and the collective had hit the ceiling this season in a year when you were supposed to go for the national championship. And it was reasonable to look at this roster going into 2026 and beyond and expect a drop off. So the question was going to be, if not now, after James Franklin has been given everything he's asked for, not just in terms of his own personal contract, but all the things that he's asked for in terms of more coaches, more money for coaches, better facilities, better infrastructure, the ability to recruit at a higher level, better NIL packages, more aggression in the transfer portal. He's been given everything. So the question is, how are you not getting it done still? So I think it was, for a lot of people have been wanting this to happen for a while. I've seen the rumor out there from Mike Astry from Pittsburgh Sports Now alluding that maybe Adidas had something to do with this. I would be surprised if such a fresh relationship went to that extent that a sports apparel company was lobbying for a head coach to be fired. I'd be very surprised by that. But, speaking to Justin earlier on this morning about this situation, he said it's hard to tell because we're doing an autopsy of something that's happened in the last 48 hours. So time will tell. I think there's a lot more that's going to come out about this. But I think to one degree, this is a long time coming for James Franklin within the Penn State ecosystem. Um, and I think there's a lot of people. I saw Josh Pate say this is an insane decision to get rid of somebody who has won at such a high level. I've said it before on the Power 2, TJ, the Bo Pelini effect. There is no indication that any program will go from 9 to 10 wins, averaging that per season, and go and get the guy who then turns into your Mark Richt to a Kirby Smart, for instance. So time will tell.
So on three's hot board by Pete Nakos, who is pretty connected. True or false? Penn State. Just your guess here. I'm not saying that you are in the building making the decision.
He's probably more connected than I am, but yeah.
True or false? One of these names I give you is Penn State's next head coach. Matt Rule at Nebraska, Kurt Cignetti at Indiana, Matt Campbell at Iowa State, Clark Lee, maybe the Vandy route again, Eli Drinkowitz at Missouri, or Manny Diaz at Duke. Does Penn State hire one of those guys?
Matt Rule wouldn't surprise me. But at the same time, it sounds like he's getting the resources from Nebraska that he's wanted. Whether or not he's going to be able to break through and become a top tier team in the Big Ten, I have my doubts. But Matt Rule, being a Penn State guy, that's an obvious connection to make. Clark Lee, I don't think he's a bad coach by any means, but he's a Vanderbilt guy. I think he's exactly where he wants to be. Eli Drinkowitz, to me, he fits the SEC. So I would also be surprised to see him walk away from Mizzou, which you know better than I. They have a ton of money to play with, and they have incrementally made progress every single year. So I don't think his ceiling has been reached at Mizzou, but he would be viable. Manny Diaz, obviously, just very recently was the defensive coordinator for Penn State. I don't think Duke is the place that he wants to be long term. It was a stepping stone job. No disrespect to Duke, but he's the head coach of Miami, went to Penn State, rehabilitated his image, did a great job as a defensive coordinator, went to Duke to kind of rehabilitate his image as a head coach. So him coming back to Penn State, I think that would be something that would be welcomed. Would that be a conflict of a defensive-minded head coach with a independent thinking, defensive-minded defensive coordinator, obviously, and Jim Knowles? Like, would that work? Would that be oil and water? And the other name you mentioned, Kurt Cignetti, that's an interesting one. And I kind of come back to the Eli Drinkowitz situation. It seems like Indiana is giving him all of the resources he wants. He got the big contract that he wanted. You want to be a player in one of these two major conferences. It's hard to argue that Indiana isn't a player at this point. We were doubting it last year. We were doubting it much of this year. They just went to Oregon and beat the Ducks in Eugene. This team is clearly on the rise. So I don't think it would make sense for Cignetti to leave. He has Pennsylvania connections and roots. So I understand that, but he is a big name. He is a proven winner. I would just be really surprised if he left.
I know you'll continue to talk about this and all things Penn State. Where can people outside of the Power 2, where can they follow you and find your work?
Yeah, check me out on Instagram and X at Tom Hannifan, TomHannifan. And then also tune in wherever you get your podcasts on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, etc. to State of State, a Penn State football show with myself and former Penn State and NFL defensive back Justin King. And we're very fortunate on the show in that, as I mentioned before, his stepfather is Terry Smith, who is currently the interim head coach of Penn State football. So we're not getting every little last shred, as you can imagine, of information from Terry Smith. There's that separation of church and state, as you can understand. It's a family matter, but you're not going to get any closer to it than that in our world of Penn State football. So please check out State of State, a Penn State football show.
We'll link all that in the description. Tom, I thank you for, even while on PTO, taking some time to do some work with us today.
I appreciate it. I look forward to the Christmas bonus.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. It's on the way.
Thanks, TJ.
If you can put it toward the buyout. So
yes, exactly.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks, man.